Hi everyone. I have a brand new brush set out, Destination Graduation. It's for use with all of your senior and graduation style photos. It has over 40 brushes in it, and this little tutorial is just to show you a few different ways that you can incorporate these brushes into your workflow. I've opened a photo and I'm going to show you basically two ways to use the brushes. The boy in the photo happens to be my son. He is a senior this year, so I figured he's the perfect subject. Starting with one of his photos, I've resized it to a 10 by 20 for a vertical locker print. And the first thing I'm going to do after opening the photo is create a new layer. Let me take this time to say I am using CS5, working in CS5. If you happen to be in an older version of Photoshop or even one of the newer versions of Photoshop Elements, you'll be able to use these brushes. The steps might be a little different, but they're basically the same. So once you have your new layer open, you will of course have the brushes loaded already. I'm going to grab one of the vertical senior brushes, the one that is created in a grunge style. I'm going to use white, and because I'm going to be altering it, play around with the different colors when you're going to alter the brushes, white or black, depending on what styles or what you're going to be using or applying to the brushes. But for this example, I've left it at white. And the brush size, I'm actually going to bump up full size. On the 10 by 20, the brush size will look a little bit small. These are all high quality brushes, and when working with them like this, go right ahead and stretch them out to fit what you need. On a typical size photo, an 8 by 10, 8 by 12, these are all plenty size big enough just as they are. So once we have that, let's apply it. And it is on its own layer. We're going to go over to the layer menu and double click it. This will open our layer style menu. From here you have the options to add styles to this brush, drop shadows, bevel and emboss it, different pattern overlays. And let me just take a minute and say the pattern overlays, remember those you can create from any of our papers. Just go open it, open the paper, save it as a pattern, and when you go in here into your pattern overlay, that's where you will find some of the brushes. Like here are my watercolor brushes, or I'm sorry, watercolor papers. And you can create a pattern overlay from any of our papers. What I'm going to do to this though is apply a style. You can, I actually do not sell any styles currently. It's something I'm considering doing, but at this point I don't. Styles are available just all over, and even just some of the basic ones built into Photoshop work fun for this. I have one that resembles a bit of, almost looks like a football skin a little bit. And that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to tweak it even further though. I'm going to apply a drop shadow, and I'm going to go into the bevel and emboss, and just kind of play and see if I can get that to pop out just a little bit more. I want to go into the emboss. There we go. And again, when you open up the layer style box and you go into the drop shadows or bevel and emboss, pattern overlays, remember that when you click on one of these, it opens an adjoining menu right next to it. If you highlight drop shadow, for instance, you are going to be able to go into the structures of the drop shadow and change it, the angle, the distance, the spread, the size, even the contour. The bevel and emboss, you'll have several different styles of the bevel and emboss. If you go into the pattern overlays, again, you can not only change the pattern itself, you can also go up and change the blend mode. Every one of these has an adjoining menu, and the best way to learn them is to get in there and dig around and see what's in there. So back to what I was doing, I chose a style, and at this point I could just click OK, flatten, and save. I might also decide not to use the style. Let's walk back in. Let's go back to styles, and I'm just going to turn off the style. Say I had no styles and I just wanted to play with the brush itself. I could go into the drop shadow. I created in the brush set, you will have this senior in both a vertical and horizontal. You will have it in a solid and in the grunge textured like I'm using here. We've added a drop shadow. We could also go ahead and do a little bit of bevel and emboss. Again, it's just making it, giving it a little bit of a 3D look. And we could add our own pattern overlay. I have not too many loaded in here, but there's one that's just one of my grungier papers. And there you go. I could even go a little further, and you will find yourself going in and out just like I'm doing now, unless you know exactly what you're heading for. And say I want to add a color overlay. Let's grab the orange from his jersey so it matches his football uniform. And there we go. And we could go ahead and flatten image. And off to the printer you go. Another way to use the brushes, I have some quotes in here, let's see, let me go in and open it up. The brushes, we have the Dare to Dream, we have Learn from Yesterday, Live for Today, Hope for Tomorrow. There's a couple different ones. You Did It, some very simple ones. We have Prom, Homecoming, Congratulations. And what I did with this one is taken an 8x10 background, go ahead and created a 5x7 area on the 8x10, leaving me room for a quote. I'm going to take the quote off of here and just show you how I got to there. Once that was done, all I did was create a new layer. I chose a color, again, snagged it from his jersey, went into my brush set, grabbed that quote, and if I sized it full size on here, it's going to be way too big. So let's just make it a little bit smaller. And because it's on a new layer, you can still go ahead and adjust from here. Obviously, you will most likely, I shouldn't say obviously, most likely you will want to make sure it's centered. Go ahead and do a quick view, show all, and that way you can just make sure that it's all balanced out good. Some people leave the guides on all the time. I don't care to. And let's see, let's go back over to your layer menu, double click that layer that you just stamped the quote onto, and again you can play a little bit. I'm just going to do a little bit of the bevel and emboss. You will find yourself using these quite a bit actually, and you can see how the drop shadow looks. I didn't care for it on here. Remember, you can change the color of the drop shadow. Maybe go ahead and change it to a little bit of the orange, maybe find a lighter spot. If your subject is wearing a very bright colored shirt or something, you could grab something from there. Denim blue even would be a nice color with a typical senior photo, and just grab the color out of the jeans they're wearing. And that way it just incorporates the colors and everything matches, and that's it. Or you could also leave it plain on white, and I want to show you how to do that too. I'm going to go ahead and let me just back up here. I should have just dumped it, but okay, let's make the color white. The brush is already resized, so I know about where we're at here. And click it. It doesn't look like anything's there. Double click on your menu, go into that layer style, and just add a drop shadow. And again, let's change the color of that drop shadow to the orange. Okay, and you will have a very, let's just tweak it a little more there, and bevel and emboss it, and you have a little bit more of a artsy look. This would probably work better with a single word, which, let's try that. And again, experimentation is the best way to learn how to get the most out of your different products you buy, such as these brushes or the papers. I'm going to just go ahead, grab a single use just the single senior, and there we go. Look how nice that looks. And all we did was add a basic drop shadow. And voila, and that's it. I hope you were able to learn a few simple tricks from this tutorial that will help you get the most out of this brush set and any other brush set that you might purchase from me now or in the future. Thanks everyone. Have a great day.